Wherever this finds you, I hope this finds you well. Ben64, the console curator, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Super Pocket Capcom Edition. This bad boy comes loaded with 12 arcade classics from the Capcom catalog and allows you to interchange your game choices using the Evercade Cartridge system. So let's find out if this is the ultimate way to enjoy the nostalgia-filled afternoons of your youth on the go, or if this is one that you should be passing out. Let's get into it. Alright, let's waste no time getting into it, shall we? And you know what that means. Perfect. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Super Pocket Capcom Edition. Not only does it have a wonderful color scheme, but this is a handheld geared at retro gaming and nostalgia while bringing it into the modern century. Gone are the days of the 80s and 90s where you had to go to an arcade to play some games. And now you can very well take them along with you in your pocket. Now to be fair, they actually came up with 3 different variants of this exact product. And the reason I say that is because there is this version, the Super Pocket, which is a highly pocketable version. There is a horizontal version for those people who prefer the horizontal form factor. And there's also what's called the Evercade Verse. And that's one that's not a handheld console, but is a TV console, if you will. Hooks up to an HDMI and allows for 4-player multiplayer. So depending on what you're looking for, you can kind of tailor your experience that way. And what really draws these things together, puts them in the same family, if you will, is the fact that they all use an Evercade cartridge system. And they all use the same Evercade carts. So if you get Evercade cartridges, you can use them interchangeably between all 3 of those different variants. And I think that's really pretty fantastic. That's a huge selling point in my opinion. Now, looking at this one, not only does this have this beautiful color scheme, but it also comes preloaded with some Capcom classics. This one actually comes complete with Street Fighter II, Mega Man, 1942, Final Fight, Ghouls and Ghosts, to name a few. And those are all preloaded on here, no cartridge necessary. Now, pretty standard packaging. They did end up doing a few quality of life improvements on this as well, and that includes convenient USB-C charging, which of course is the standard for charging nowadays. This also has a 2.8-inch laminated IPS screen. And so that should mean that we get good viewing angles, kind of from whatever viewing angle you could possibly consider. Although, to be honest with you, when you're holding a DMG style handheld, like a vertical handheld, it's rare that you don't create the automatic ideal viewing angle for yourself anyway. So enough chatter, let's get into it, shall we? I always find these boxes to be tricky to open, and so that's one of the reasons that I have my trusty tool right here today. Good for prying consoles open and everything of that nature, but also good for opening boxes, hopefully without destroying them. And when you're trying to open these without breaking it, I just kind of slide these in and then pop it just like that. Now, the moment of truth, let's get a drum roll going. I am loving this color scheme. I'm a big fan of blue in general, but this like blue with the electric yellow looks absolutely fantastic. And this is some intense packaging, I have to say. So I think we get that going, and then we open up this bottom thing. Oh, okay, we have a standard USB-C. So a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, of course. Set that aside. And then let's see if we can't pop this out. Oh, and look, even on the back, we get a little sneak peek of the buttons there, the bumper buttons.
Alright, so in all its glory, here it is, the Super Pocket Capcom Edition, classic Capcom blue and yellow. We have our standard face button layout here, start and select, of course, forward firing speaker, and a round D-pad. We also have Capcom Edition right across the front, in case you were bound to forget. Now A, B, X, Y, as is par for the course. We do have a settings button in the middle here, and a round D-pad, which is something that's different for me as a Nintendo kid, and I'm curious to see if that's going to be comfortable or not. We'll do some button testing on that a little bit later. We have start and select in the classic spots, and a Hyper Mega Tech logo in the middle, as well as a forward firing speaker. These vents on the side, I think they're just for cool looks. We do have a physical volume knob up and down here. We have R2, R1, L1, and L2 on the back in a very uncomfortable position. And again, Capcom Edition. This is going to be the cartridge slot. Pops right out here. There's a dust cover that you get normally. You can see this is where your games go. And then I think this is really cool, actually. They gave you the Evercade, more games, get more games logo. So you can scan a QR code and see what you're missing, or maybe what you want to pick up next for your catalog. So it clicks right back into place. Looking at the bottom, you can see that we have a 3.5 millimeter, as well as your on-off switch and a USB-C charging for modern convenience. flipping the switch at the bottom here, we're going to see the screen blaze to life with the Blaze Entertainment logo. You got to get your logos in, of course. You know, how else would you let people know what they're playing? You're also going to see the Hyper Mega Tech logo, which is also located on the front of the console itself. And it's going to come right into your main menu here. Scrolling through the games here a little bit, I will say that the screen looks absolutely gorgeous in person. It's a little too bright to pick up on camera, as you can tell, but it's gorgeous. The settings menu, you have Capcom, Evercade, and settings button. Going to the Evercade, it looks like this just kind of shows you what cartridge you have or some of the game catalogs that you can get, which is, I guess, pretty cool. We can see that we have like a C64, an Atari collection, an Interplay collection, which is like Earthworm Jim, Duke Nukem, bunch of arcade options, Data Easts. There's so many options on this thing. It's absolutely nuts. And then if you click on them further, it'll give you like QR codes and ideas on where to get them. I will say, handling this thing, it does feel like a pretty quality product. It's a nice robust plastic and just got a nice heft in the hand. We have a whole lot of language options: English, Spanish, French, Italian, Polish, Portuguese, German, Dutch. So definitely an internationally released product, which is awesome. Very, very accessible. Going into difficulty, I'm really not good on these, so I'm going to put it on easy mode for the moment, but we do have an easy and normal mode. It's just going to help me with my Capcom handicap, we'll call it. And then we, of course, have our legal documentation, which I'm a very accomplished speed reader, so I just speed through these, not that anybody ever reads this anyway. We do also have a battery indicator on the top right. And then credit where credit's due, we also have a credit section for Team Argon, so feel free to give them some love and check that out. And of course, it wouldn't be comprehensive testing if we didn't do a boot timer. So in this test, we're going to see how long it takes for this to turn on all the way from being completely off to the main menu and the game menu. And it looks like it's going to clock in right around that 19-second mark. So just shy of 20 seconds to get you to your game menu. One of the nice things about a handheld like this is you can really take it anywhere, and that includes pre-bed gaming. So I like to do a sound test to make sure that you're not going to disturb your partner while they're trying to get some quality Z's. That, and I find that is a great excuse to put on my trusty ASMR cassette tape. I'll of course let you be the judge, as everybody's partner is different. That said, this is certainly not the most silent button test I've ever done, so if you find yourself bunking with a particularly light sleeper, it might be something to be aware of. As we hit the sound options, we have the master volume, the menu music volume, and the menu sound volume. The master volume controls the volume for the whole console, similar to using the rocker, and then we can turn on the menu sounds and all that type of stuff. I find the menu sounds are really, really annoying, so I just turn them off to begin with, unless you want that doink, doink, doink every time you do anything. I personally just don't. But again, I do like that they gave you options to control the volume via in-game settings options or using the physical rocker here. This is also a great time to do a volume test to see just how loud this thing can get. So we're going to go from not to full volume and see what it can do. So yeah, I would say this thing gets pretty loud. I was pretty impressed, I have to say. And by having a front-firing speaker, your hands really don't obstruct the path of sound travel, so it definitely proves to be a pretty great listening experience. This button test utilizes Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting, and as a Nintendo kid, I am not ashamed to admit that I had to learn a button combination to get this off. In no way is this test original. Shout out to Russ from RGC, and rest assured, if even I can get the specialized energy attack off with some regularity, that bodes well for noobs and retro game enthusiasts alike. That said, I did find this D-pad to be a little on the uncomfortable side. Getting into 1943, the Capcom Classic Pacific Shooter, you can see that this is the original aspect ratio. So you can see that we have these giant black bars on the left and right of the screen. While this isn't something that I personally find to be too distracting, I know some people do, and that's something that you can address by messing with the aspect ratio, but going to a full screen aspect ratio will widen out the whole display. So going to display, we're currently on the original ratio, but we do have a pixel perfect and a full screen option as well, and the pixel perfect is going to be very similar in terms of layout. It's just going to be kind of like an HD version, if you will. So it's just going to sharpen up the screen a little bit for you and look really, really pretty. Heading on to the display options once again, we're going to go down to the full screen. And what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that you don't have those black bars on the sides minus the bezel. So this fattens up the entire display and just fills out the whole screen really well. I have to say I was disappointed that I couldn't find any brightness display options. That makes it not ideal for low light conditions and makes it distracting to those around you in dark rooms. That said, one of the coolest things about these pocket arcade machines that you can take anywhere is the fact that you have no need for quarters anymore. So a lot of people can now beat games that they weren't able to beat because they didn't have enough quarters or enough skill. That's because they have these slave slots. So you have like save slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what that does is it allows you to create a save at any moment that you want and start the game from there again when you come back and play. And what better way to check out aspect ratios than the classic Mega Man? Alright, guesses who I'm going to take? If you guessed Cutman, you were correct. The one, the only Cutman. And so this game serves as a great example game to use when looking at aspect ratios for a few different reasons. One of them is because so many people are familiar with this game, but another one is because we have things like the health bar on the side and the energy level, and those things can shift pixel-wise between different aspect ratios. And so it serves not only as a good visual representation, but it's also something that video game purists and those people trying to relive the nostalgia of their past really care about when it comes to playing video games. Are you able to notice the difference between the original, the pixel perfect, and the stretch aspect ratio? Pause if you need to. You'll see that the pixel perfect is a little bit more blocky than the originals. They're a little bit more stretched. I found Final Fight to be the best game to show off CRT overlays. On the left, you're going to see the no scanline option. It's just really clear. In the middle, there's a little bit of a wave to it, or a haze if you will, and that's the subtle scanlines. And on the far right, you can see like a strong haze. That's the strong scanline option. These are all reminiscent of the various 80s and 90s televisions that we had and that CRT TV experience, and it really makes you feel like you have a piece of the past in your pocket. It hits the nostalgia factor right on the head, and I was really all about this. This is my favorite game to do this with. Can you spot the difference between these three? I think it's pretty pronounced actually when you look at it this way. And one of the awesome things about this 2.8-inch IPS display is that it's absolutely gorgeous. Any viewing angle you choose to look at it from. I don't know why you would bother doing this, but maybe you're on a plane or a train or something like that and you get bumped. You don't have to worry about any compromise in image quality. This is a far cry from the handhelds that I grew up with. Finally, we have the practical pocket test. I don't think you could do a Super Pocket review without doing a pocket test. So this simulates real-world conditions and you taking your Super Pocket on the go. I would say that these pockets are pretty average in the grand scheme of pocket sizes. That said, they're not as tight as jean pockets, so if you're a jean wearer who loves cramming your handhelds into your pocket when you're on the go, take this review with a grain of salt. And if you're one of those people who loves throwing your handheld in your back pocket so you can crack the screen later when you forget it's there, well then this is for you. Personally, I love any excuse for an extra gadget, so I find myself being one of those people who always goes for a case. I kind of find the idea of putting a naked console in your pocket to be a little bit monstrous, but this is a judgment-free zone. That just leaves us with pros and cons. Let's start with the pros. The Capcom Super Pocket benefits from a beautiful screen quality with a 2.8-inch IPS display. They used great quality materials and plastic that has a nice heft in the hand. It comes preloaded with 12 Capcom classic games. It has a Taito brother that comes with its own unique catalog. It benefits from the Evercade Cartridge system and game library, which is extensive and interchangeable between it and its sister consoles. It has a very impressive volume range. It has adjustable aspect ratios, adjustable overlays and shaders. It's quite pocketable and it's limited edition. Looking at the cons, there is excessive branding, especially for my taste. The boot up time does leave something to be desired. I can't believe it has a lack of brightness control. I find the D-pad to be uncomfortable, albeit accurate, and the price, yes, this is the first time we're mentioning the price, is $60, which seems a little steep somehow. Although with all that said, weighing the pros against the cons, we do have a clear winner, and the pros kind of win by a landslide, so I'm curious what you think. Do you think this is worth picking up?
And what collection of games would you end up starting with? With such a wide variety, it seems like there are a whole lot of options. Regardless, this is Ben64, the console curator, saying the past is present, and the future is what you make it. Alright, and for those of you who stayed to the end of this video, we saved the best for last, and that is, that's right, the game pamphlet. Now, I didn't review this before because it didn't come out of the box before, and I only realized that it was there when I started putting the game console back in the box. Sometimes you get books and pamphlets, and sometimes you get beautiful, stunning, fold-out posters. That's right. So now you know you can get more games for the Super Pocket using the Evercade cartridge system. And you get the sexy poster. So gone are the days of needing beautiful women or even cars, horses, fighter jets, anything like that. You now have your choice of a Capcom Edition Super Pocket or an interface option layout guide. So eat your hearts out, everyone. That's 2 posters for the price of 1. Although, I guess you can only pick one, so thanks for watching.